Passenger is a 360 VR stop-motion film that tells the story of arriving in a new country for the first time.
So, where are we going? Okay, 185.
When we were thinking about making a VR film, we were thinking about how putting on a VR headset kind of transports you to a whole new world. You can be put into somebody else's shoes. That's one of its really great strengths. So we're thinking about stories where it's interesting to be put into somebody else's shoes.
My parents had come to Australia from overseas in the 70s and talked a lot about when they first arrived how they felt kind of a bit strange and out of place, and so I felt like we could also make something that related to that as a VR work.
I expected things to be different, but not this.
We've done a lot of other immersive work, but Passenger's the first time we've tried VR and we had no idea what we were doing.
We spent a lot of time trying to decide how to make this film, and we experimented with various computer-based techniques, but we've got a history of working with real objects and stop motion, and we really love combining real objects with digital technologies.
Yeah, we really like the texture of feeling like you can reach out and touch it.
This is only the third stop-motion 360 film that was ever made, so there's no technology set up for it. We managed to use a camera that was pre-made, but we had to cobble together lots of different software and hardware and techniques to try and make it work.
In our previous work, we've always worked quite cinematically, using a lot of close-ups and different camera angles to tell the story emotionally. But in VR, you have to use things like sound cues or bits of motion to guide people's attention and to engage them.
There, you see, that's the audience.
We worked really hard on writing dialogue that felt naturally one-sided, that didn't need a response. That really helps you engage directly with the taxi driver and lets you discover clues about the character that you're inhabiting in the film.
Last time I went back to my home country, it didn't feel quite the same anymore.
Once we had the voice track, we ended up making this kind of two-dimensional map that mapped out the physical road as well as putting Sammy's voice in to give us a sense of how much time it took him to say certain things at certain points.
So in effect, this became our storyboard and our animatic. So instead of drawing frame by frame what it would look like, we had a bird's eye view of where the car would travel and how long it would take to get between A and B, and then how many metres of freeway we'd need and how many metres of suburbs we'd need. So it was a really handy planning tool.
And in my home country, houses and buildings don't move around.
Then a friend offered us a warehouse where we could shoot for 4 months, and it was absolutely massive.
Let's just build it. Let's just build the whole set, and we'll drive our camera through it, and it'll actually not be that difficult.
Yeah, how hard can it be?
We needed to be able to make a whole lot of set really quickly and cheaply, and the cardboard really lends itself to being something that's totally familiar. You really understand and can recognise the materials of the world, but the world is behaving in a totally irrational and surreal kind of way. What you see when you're watching Passenger is the camera progressing 5mm at a time through around 60 metres of set, which we filmed over about 4 months between the hours of 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. because it needed to be dark.
As you can imagine, it was a big relief to finish that process. But then we had to go into a green screen studio and shoot the same 8,000 frames, animating the interior of the taxi to match the exterior. It had to be a very careful setup. It was basically a tent, so we had to mask off all the light stands, the ceiling, everyone around us, and every shot Isabel was animating the taxi driver and she had to bob down. And while Isabel was doing that, I was moving the lights frame by frame on a pole to match the street lights in the exteriors we'd already shot.
The light travelling through the carriage of the car is a really massive part of the atmosphere of the film, so it was very important to make those details all match. We worked with the composer Mirko Guerini, who composed a really lush, beautiful soundtrack.
As an immigrant myself, I knew the feeling of the movie. There is a mixture of excitement, but also a little bit of fear of the unknown. Therefore, I have used some acoustic instruments, for example the saxophone, but in an unconventional way.
We worked with Byron Scullen and he created an ambisonic immersive sound design, which meant that he took sounds and attached them to objects that move around in 3D space or that you move past, so that you feel like you're really immersed in a 3D sonic world.
Byron had to become an animator for our project.
Having watched a lot of animation and experienced the sound for a lot of animation, like a real opportunity to actually really go into that world, like really go in there and inhabit it and like feel like you're a part of it rather than sort of sitting outside of it, which I think was like a massive opportunity.
We had a really amazing set of people who worked with us on Passenger, a producer and a props maker and a gaffer, and all these people who kind of got excited about the project with us and would come and visit the studio and make a bit of road or something. And
even like lots of people were just interested and came and helped us, even if they didn't directly work on the film. You know, people were very, very generous, helping out with their time and expertise. While we were shooting this, we vowed we would never, ever work with VR again because it was really a very, very challenging experience, the whole thing. But we're incredibly happy with the way the film's turned out. It's kind of exceeded expectations to a large extent, and I feel really emotional still watching it, and it's connected with so many people, which has been really exciting.
Working in this whole new VR environment and meeting a whole lot of people around the world who are also interested in this, seeing their work and being inspired has really made me want to make more VR works in the future.
And we'll also keep working together. It won't always be VR, but we'll definitely keep doing projects in one form or another.